The Bush administration will allow National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice to testify publicly before the 9/11 Commission.
For President Bush, it was a dramatic reversal.
I've ordered this level of cooperation because I consider it necessary to gaining a complete picture of the months.
And even the president and vice president agreed to meet with the commission, but with a catch. They insisted on meeting together behind closed doors and not under oath.
Mr. President, why are you and the Vice President insisting on appearing together before the 9/11 Commission?
Because the 9/11 Commission wants to ask us questions. That's why we're meeting, and I look forward to meeting with them and answering their questions.
Why you're appearing together rather than separately, which was their request?
Because it's a good chance for both of us to answer questions that the 9/11 Commission is looking forward to asking us, and I'm looking forward to answering them. Let's see. I want to thank the chairman and vice chairman for giving us a chance to share views on different subjects. And they had a lot of good questions, and I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I took the time.
What topic did the commissioners want to spend most of the time on?
It's probably best that I not go into the details of the conversation.
There we go.
My name is Teresa Morrill, and I just want to say that I'm really excited that you're here in Cannon Falls. And my question is there something we can do about the rising costs of prescription drugs? And number two, if you can't legalize marijuana, why can't we just legalize medical marijuana to help the people that need it?
Well, you know, a lot of states are making decisions about medical marijuana as a controlled substance. The issue then is, you know, is it being prescribed by a doctor as opposed to, you know, well, I'll leave it at that. With respect to prescription drugs, the prescription drug program that now is part of Medicare obviously has been very helpful, but the costs had been going up and up and up. So part of the Affordable Care Act, health care reform, also known as Obamacare. By the way, you know what? Let me tell you. I have no problem with folks saying Obama cares. I do care. If the other side wants to be the folks who don't care, that's fine with me. But yeah, I do care about families who've been struggling because of crushing health care costs. I met a young man here who, right here, who, as a consequence of health care reform, you know, he's got a blood disorder that if it weren't for the Health Care Reform Act, his family would have been capped out. And he wouldn't have the help that he needs. And you can tell he's an outstanding young man, and he's going to do great things, and his family's not going bankrupt as a consequence of it. Now, the same thing is true on prescription drugs. What we did as part of the Affordable Care Act was we said, first of all, we're going to give a $250 rebate to every senior out there who's using the prescription drug plan to help lower their costs a little bit. And what we've done is we're starting to close what's called the donut hole. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the donut hole, the way the original prescription drug plan was structured, you would get some coverage up to a certain point, a couple $1,000s. Once you spent a few $1,000s, suddenly it just went away. And you were on your own out of pocket until you got on the other side where you'd spent many more thousands of dollars, and then you would get a prescription drug plan again. Well, we said that doesn't make any sense. Let's close that hole. And as part of the Affordable Care Act, we will be closing that hole. And we're also making it cheaper for generics to get on the market, as well as brand name drugs. So overall, the Health Care Act should be lowering prices for prescription drugs over the next few years. It's getting phased in, so it didn't all take into effect right away after I signed the bill. It's getting phased in over the next several years. But you should start seeing some relief if your family needs prescription drugs. That was part of the Affordable Care Act. All right?
It's unknown how many of these warnings, reported but buried in back pages, reached the White House through official channels. But one threat assessment is well known to have reached President Bush directly. It was known as the Presidential Daily Briefing, or PDB, of August 6th. The Bush administration kept it from the public for months until it was revealed in part by the CBS News in May 2002, putting the White House on the defensive.
All of this reporting about hijacking was about traditional hijacking. You take a plane, people were worried they might blow one up.
I'd like to ask you about the August 6th PDB.
Sure.
You mentioned it.
2 years later, President Bush responded to questions about what led him to request the August 6th briefing.
Yeah. Ed, I asked for the briefing. And the reason I did is because there had been a lot of threat intelligence from overseas. And so part of it had to do with the Genoa G8 conference that I was going to attend.
8 of the world's most powerful leaders gathered here to discuss global problems. And yet the threat of violence means they're having to keep the world at bay.
Just prior to the G8 summit, CNN.com reported the head of Russia's Federal Bodyguard Service has warned of a plot by terrorist Osama bin Laden to assassinate George W. Bush. The LA Times reported U.S. officials were warned of a threat posed from the air by commercial airliners.
It's terrorists as well as protesters the Italian government fears, so anti-aircraft batteries were on standby at the airport.
Condoleezza Rice was present there, President Bush, Ari Fleischer, Karl Rove, President Bush's own family.
They were going to sleep on a boat so that a plane couldn't go into a building.
This floating resort will be home for 3 days for the G8 leaders, necessary for their safety.
If the August 6 PDB was prompted by a threat from the air in Genoa, clearly President Bush, his spokesperson Ari Fleischer, and his national security advisor Condi Rice were more than aware of the threat of planes as weapons.
My question is, last night in your State of the Union address, you spoke of America's support for human rights. Then why have we not condemned Israel and Egypt's human rights violations against the occupied Palestinian people, and yet we continue to support financially with billions of dollars coming from our tax dollars?
Okay, now everybody's got to be courteous. Everybody's answering the question. Let me just talk about the Middle East generally. Look. All right, everybody, come on. Hold on 1 second. I got to answer my question first, sir. Okay. I know you got some beads on? Are those New Orleans beads? Okay. Look. The Middle East is obviously an issue that has plagued the region for centuries. And it's an issue that elicits a lot of passions, as you heard. Here's my view. Israel is one of our strongest allies. It has... let me play this out. It is a vibrant democracy. It shares links with us in all sorts of ways. It is critical for us, and I will never waver from ensuring Israel's security and helping them secure themselves in what is a very hostile region. So I make no apologies for that. What is also true is that the plight of the Palestinians is something that we have to pay attention to, because it is not good for our security, and it is not good for Israel's security if you've got millions of individuals who feel hopeless, who don't have an opportunity to get an education or get a job or what have you. Now, the history of there is long, and I don't have time to go through the grievances of both sides in the issue. What I have said and what we did from the beginning when I came into office is to say we are seeking a two-state solution in which Israel and the Palestinians can live side by side in peace and security. In order to do that, both sides are going to have to make compromises. As a first step, the Palestinians have to unequivocally renounce violence and recognize Israel. And Israel has to acknowledge legitimate grievances and interests of the Palestinians. We know what a solution could look like in the region, but here's the problem that we're confronting right now, is that both in Israel and within the Palestinian territories, the politics are difficult. They're divided. The Israeli government came in based on the support of a lot of folks who don't want to make a lot of concessions. I think Prime Minister Netanyahu is actually making some effort to try to move a little bit further than his coalition wants him to go. On the other hand, President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, who I think genuinely wants peace, has to deal with Hamas, an organization that has not recognized Israel and has not disavowed violence. And so we are working to try to strengthen the ability of both parties to sit down across the table and to begin serious negotiations. And I think that it's important when we're talking about this issue to make sure that we don't just knee-jerk use language that is inflammatory or in some fashion discourages the possibility of negotiation. We've got to recognize that both the Palestinian people and Israelis have legitimate aspirations, and they can be best served if the United States is helping them understand each other as opposed to demonizing each other. All right? Okay.